You won't believe what happened to me. A few years ago, I was living in a quiet suburban neighborhood, minding my own business. I worked hard, kept to myself, and loved my home. But everything changed one night. I was forced out by my own neighbors I thought I could trust. The reason? Racism. It started with little things. The occasional cold shoulder, the whispers behind my back. But it escalated quickly. One evening, I was just getting home from work when I saw a note on my door. It was from the neighbors next door. They were calling for a neighborhood meeting to discuss my unsuitable behavior. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I showed up to that meeting, it hit me like a ton of bricks. They were accusing me of things I didn't do, claiming I was a threat to the neighborhood's reputation. But why? What had I done? The truth was simple. I was a black woman living in a predominantly white area, and that made them uncomfortable. They made their hate clear, but I didn't back down. I wasn't going anywhere. But that's when things took a turn. They began to turn the rest of the neighbors against me. Quietly, slowly, they whispered lies. They painted me as some kind of menace. And the worst part? They succeeded. I felt the shift. Invitations stopped coming. Eyes turned cold. It was like I was a ghost in my own home. But this wasn't just petty gossip. They were working behind my back to get me out. A few weeks later, the HOA started sending me strange letters. At first, it seemed harmless. Minor violations. Things like the fence needing a fresh coat of paint. Then came the fines. Large ones. Every week, I was getting more and more notices. My lawn wasn't trimmed just right. My mailbox was too large. And each time I protested, they found something else. Something more. They made my life unbearable. The stress mounted. My mental health took a hit. But I wasn't going to give up without a fight. I started digging. I needed dirt on them, on this whole situation. That's when I found the first bombshell. One of the neighbors, Mr. Carter, the one who'd started the whole neighborhood meeting debacle, had a criminal record, a serious one. He had been arrested for assault years ago. But that wasn't the shocking part. He was also on probation for racially motivated attacks. His record was scrubbed, hidden away, but I found it. He was no angel. In fact, the more I dug, the more I realized he'd been involved in multiple shady business deals that went under the radar. But here's the twist. The neighbors weren't just racist. They were actively sabotaging me, trying to push me out for their own gain. They had been planning to buy my property for years, waiting for the right moment to drive me out with harassment. I wasn't just a target because of the color of my skin. I was a pawn in their plan to take control of the neighborhood. And when I realized that, I knew I couldn't just sit back and take it anymore. I had to fight back. I went straight to the city council and filed a formal complaint. But that's when they hit back. Hard. They called the cops on me. Said I was trespassing. They made up stories about me being violent. I was forced out, kicked out of my own home. But I wasn't done yet. While I was packing up, I made sure to take a few things with me. Key evidence, records, files. I had a plan. I was going to expose them all. I spent weeks gathering everything I could. I knew that once I had the right leverage, I could bring them down. Then came the bombshell moment. I had an anonymous tip-off. Someone in the neighborhood had seen Mr. Carter doing something suspicious. He was meeting with a developer who was known for buying up properties under shady circumstances. The plot was thickening. But there was one final twist I didn't expect. Someone I'd never suspected was in on it too. Linda, the woman across the street who always smiled at me, who was so nice when we passed by. She was playing both sides, feeding information to the HOA, feeding information to the developer. She was a mole. I was being watched, monitored. They knew what I was doing. And when I tried to make my move, when I thought I could expose them, I realized something horrifying. I was being followed. Every step I took, they were right behind me. I had to be smart. I had to think fast. I couldn't go to the police. They were already in on it. Corrupt officers had been paid off. I was alone in this. But then, out of nowhere came my chance. A glitch in their perfect plan. Linda made a mistake. She left her phone unlocked, and I got a glimpse of something that would change everything. An email, a payment receipt, a list of names, people who were working with them to destroy me, and others. But there was something even darker hidden within that list. Names of people who had gone missing, people who had been silenced for trying to expose the corruption in that very neighborhood. Now, I was in it deeper than I ever intended, but I was ready. I wasn't backing down anymore. It was time to take them down from the inside, to turn their plan against them. They thought they had won. They thought they had control, but they hadn't seen anything yet. The fight was just beginning. So where were we? I just found that email, the one that had Linda's unlocked phone, revealing a list of names, missing people, people who were silenced for trying to expose the corruption in the neighborhood. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was bigger than I thought. But that's when everything went south. I wasn't alone. Someone was in the room with me. I turned around, heart pounding, and saw Linda standing in the doorway. She had a cold smile on her face, the kind of smile that makes your blood run cold. "You shouldn't have seen that," she said. I froze. What was I going to do? How did she know? But before I could even react, she pulled out her phone, making a call. The next thing I knew, I heard a car engine outside. They were here. They knew. Linda had been watching me the whole time. She knew I was on to them. I bolted. There was no time to waste. I grabbed the email, shoved it in my bag, and sprinted out the back door. I didn't even look back as I ran through the alley behind my house. But I wasn't fast enough. As I rounded the corner, I saw them, Mr. Carter, the developer, and a few of his goons, the ones who'd been following me around. They were blocking the exit. Going somewhere? Carter's voice was low, cold. I was trapped. But then I remembered something, my last trump card. I'd been keeping something hidden, just in case. A secret I hadn't shared with anyone. I'd been recording everything. Every single meeting. Every threat. Every lie. Every shady move. I had them. All of them. And I had it on tape. I wasn't going down without a fight. With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone and hit play. Carter's eyes flickered to the screen. It was a developer's secret deals. All of it, laid out in front of him. There was no denying it. The money laundering, the bribery, everything they'd been doing to push me out, to push other people out of their homes. It was all there. His face went white. His smugness evaporated in an instant. "You think this is going to stop me?" Carter sneered. But before I could respond, something unexpected happened. A police siren. Loud. Close. The goons froze. So did Carter. We all turned to see a squad car pulling up. The officer stepped out, his face grim. It wasn't just any officer. It was Officer Daniels, a guy I'd seen around before. I had no idea he was involved, but the sight of him felt like a lifeline. "What's going on here?" Daniels asked, eyeing the situation. Carter's goons immediately backed off, eyes darting nervously. Carter, however, stood his ground. "This is none of your business," he said, trying to maintain control. But Daniels wasn't having it. "I think it is," he said, his voice unyielding. Then, in a move that I didn't expect, Daniels pulled out a search warrant. "We're seizing your property. All of it." The shock on Carter's face was priceless. He stammered, "You can't do this. This is private property." Daniels didn't flinch. Not when it's linked to an illegal operation. Carter's goons exchanged nervous glances, but none of them dared to say anything. This wasn't going how they planned. But before anyone could say another word, another car pulled up. This one wasn't a police car. It was a black SUV. And out of it stepped someone I never expected to see. Linda's brother, Marcus. Now, here's where things got wild. Marcus wasn't just some random guy. He was an FBI agent. I had no clue. Turns out, he had been investigating the same people for months, working undercover to bring down the network of corruption that Carter and his associates had been running. Linda, it turns out, wasn't just a mole. She was trying to get close enough to expose them all from the inside. She'd been feeding him information this whole time, but she couldn't let me in on it. I had no idea I was being used as bait. Linda had to stay in the shadows to keep her cover intact. But when I found the email, everything changed. Marcus had been trying to warn me. He had been hoping I'd figure it out. And I did. That's when the whole operation began to unravel. With Marcus's help, we had everything we needed. The developers' ties, organized crime, the list of missing people, the money laundering, the intimidation tactics. All of it. It was all going down. They were all going down. Carter, the HOA, the goons. They had nowhere to hide now. But here's the thing, the case didn't end there. No, I thought I was done. Thought I had won. But as we were all standing there, Marcus made a call. He spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up and looked at me, his face pale. "You're not going to believe this," he said. I stared at him, confused. "What?" "The list," he said. "The missing people?" I nodded. "Yeah." "They're not missing," he said. "They're in witness protection." I froze. "What?" I couldn't process it. They're all alive. The people who were silenced, they're under government protection. We've been watching the wrong people. I felt the ground drop out from under me. The story was bigger than I could ever have imagined. Carter and his associates, they weren't the masterminds. They were just pawns. The real players were still out there, and they were far more dangerous than I'd ever thought. But Marcus wasn't done yet. "We need your help," he said. "We need you to be a part of this. We have to go after the people pulling the strings." And that's when it hit me. This fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The real culprits were still free, and they weren't going to stop until they got what they wanted. But now I knew too much. I was in deeper than ever. Stay tuned for more.